everybody, and welcome to another edition of Indie Biz EDU with Portland Buy Local. I'm Amy Landry, board president of Portland Buy Local, and we're excited to have you here today. A couple things I just wanted to announce for people that haven't seen it. First thing is that Portland Buy Local is now a 501c3 nonprofit, and yes. And what that means for us is really just a more sustainable future, because we're going to be able to hopefully raise money in an easier way through grants and foundations, as well as private donations from people in the community. So if you want to make a donation, you can do that on our website, and it is now tax deductible. So exciting news. Second, we are making this series a half-day event. We are having our first Indie Biz EDU Summit on March 19th at USM. You can find that in the events area of our website. That is a paid event. We've kept the cost super low, basically at cost for us, so that you can all come. It's going to be from 8 to 1 p.m., and we're going to have some marketing sessions, one in HR, maybe dabble in a little bit of finance, business value, and some self-care for your business. So please look at that event, think about attending, and share it with your friends. And we're also looking for sponsors, also affordable as well. So with that, we'll turn to our event today. We're going to talk about content planning and creation. If you did not see the event that we did with these two lovely ladies back in April, be sure to go to our YouTube page to find that. But today we're going to go a little bit deeper into how you actually create the content that we talked about that day. We had a lot of questions. So with that, I'll let our two speakers introduce themselves and get started.
Hi, my name is Julie O'Boyle. I'm a social content strategist with Ethos Marketing and Design in Westbrook, Maine. I work with a variety of clients there, everywhere from direct-to-consumer brands to nonprofits, Maine-based grants, wide variety. Prior to joining Ethos, I've been there for about 4 years. Prior to joining Ethos, I worked in-house for a couple of brands, including Urban, ModCloth, and Etsy. And I've also worked with agencies before. I've done everything from product copywriting, email marketing, ghostwriting for founders, literally everything when it comes to digital marketing. I am also a content creator and freelance content creator, meaning that I create content for other businesses as well as myself. So I have a Instagram and social media presence called By Julie Sharp, where I share lifestyle and fashion content, mostly relating to secondhand shopping and sustainability. You can also find pictures of my cats there. Which I said I would find a way to mention them. But local collaborations that I've done include LL Bean, Lost and Found Market, which is a vintage market here in Maine, where I am also a vendor, and the new Warby Parker store on Middle Street. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you.
She's got great social media. Yeah, you should definitely
check it out. Really appreciate it.
My name's Holly Martzial. I'm the Director of Client Strategy at Sonar Digital, which is a digital marketing and advertising agency in Portland. And prior to my time at Sonar, I also worked as an in-house marketing director for some great local brands here in Portland. And my background is really heavy in content creation, but at this stage of the game, I'm more focused on like content strategy and advertising strategy. So it'll be, I think, really interesting to tie some of like the content planning and content creation work that Julie is so heavy-handed in with some of the strategy and like implementation work that we do regularly at Sonar. So excited to tie it all together today.
Great. First question, where was the last locally owned independent business that you frequented, and why do you love them?
If you are a parent of a school-aged child right now, you are in the throes of summer camp planning. And so I have given all of my money recently to local summer camps, and notably one of my favorites, I was like, should I share this? Because then there's not gonna be spots, but I will because I love them. It's such a good program. So Salt Pump, which is a climbing company in Scarborough. And so I think that's the last place I spent some significant local money.
I would say a variety of Portland venues just to support local music, local art. I'll say I was at Gino's last night, which is one of my favorite local venues. They do some amazing events and are great supporters of the queer community. So I really love supporting them.
Great. So first question, we're going to start with content planning. So what are key factors that need to be considered when you're developing a digital content marketing strategy? Start at the beginning.
I would say the biggest factor to consider is what the campaign and strategy goals are. So oftentimes I think we get caught up in this thought that we just need to be doing content, like we need to be creating content, we need to be doing the marketing thing, right? But really stepping back and thinking about, okay, what am I trying to achieve? At Sonar, we always recommend that there's a constant level of brand awareness happening. So there's content strategy related to that. And then in addition to that, like what else are we trying to really dig into here? So as we move from just like letting people know about your business to what you're trying to achieve as a business and how your marketing and your content supports that effort. So I think starting at the top, like what are my business goals, right? Aside from thinking about just, okay, what are my marketing goals or what am I trying to create for content here? Like what am I trying to achieve as a business? And then how does the content work, the marketing work, the digital work level and like ladder up to achieve those goals. So
Absolutely, I agree with that. I think knowing your product, knowing your business, and knowing your audience is important to defining what your message is going to be.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, you need to know why you're doing it, right?
yeah.
So what about content mix? I think we had a question about this in the last session that we did. It's like there's so many options. So how do you decide where to put your time, or do you put your time in a little bit of everything? Blog posts and social and video, email marketing. How do you chalk it up?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost know your bandwidth and what you can actually handle in terms of taking on these different social platforms, different marketing funnels. So before you dedicate yourself to writing an email every week, wanting to put out 2 blog posts a week, setting a goal of having a social media post every single day, really understand what your own schedule will actually allow. Because for me, as a audience member of following a lot of different businesses, to me, I don't want to say there's nothing worse, but when you go on someone's social media handle and you see that their last post was 6 months ago, to me that tells me that you're probably spreading yourself too thin. So I think really understanding where you can put your time and how you can dedicate yourself. But I'll also say that having a strong social media presence on Instagram, Facebook, the very basics is really important because that's ultimately how people are going to find your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. It's definitely what you're able to get done, but also thinking about the purpose of each piece of content that you're working to create. So, I think that it's important to pay attention and know that like email serves a different purpose than an Instagram post. A blog post serves a different purpose than showing up on TikTok. So again, thinking back to, okay, what is the most important or the few most important goals of my business right now? And so then where do I need to be to achieve those goals? If I feel like I have a really strong brand awareness, I'm consistently posting on social media, I feel really good about that. What's next? So where do I go from there? Is it trying to grow my email list and turn my followers into actual customers? Is it trying to retain customers? So I think there's a big difference in where we put the content. And so thinking about where we're putting that to achieve what will guide the priority of what you're doing and when.
And I think there's a question about this a little later on, but also thinking once you sort of define where you're going to be, thinking about how you can repurpose that content to feed the other channels. And we can talk more about that.
Yeah, well, some of the next questions were about, aligning, how do you effectively align your content creation with those broader marketing goals and maybe lead generation? Do we want to click in on that?
Yeah, we can touch on that now. So if you're thinking about how you engage with a business, right? If you're kind of like sitting back and watching a business on Instagram for a while, and then you decide, I either want to buy something, I want to reach out and talk about what their services are, I want to kind of convert in a different way or engage in a different way. I think thinking about it as a consumer is a nice place to kind of pivot to as a business owner. Like, what would I do and how would I get there? So would I sign up for their email list, right? Would I go to their website? I think the purpose of a lot of social media platforms is to keep people on platform. So we have to think about what is it going to take to get somebody off of a platform and engaging with my business in a more direct way, and in a way that as a business owner, I can then try and maintain that relationship with the consumer, with the client. So yeah, I guess that's probably where I would start thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that's really well said.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we have limited resources, then we're kind of like, how do we hone in and then on what we should focus on? How do we do this effectively, but with very limited resources, money and time? Because I think a lot of small business owners don't have any time. And that's probably more of what they don't have, and then money.
Yeah, I think certainly also leaning into, I know this is another thing that I saw in the questions, but like there's content that, you as I keep touching my mic, sorry. There's content that you as a business owner or a marketing director or a content creator would create. And then there's also content that you can get through your customers or your clients. And so leaning into that, like how can I find ways in my business to engage with my customers so that they're creating content, which is like a lot of the amazing work that Julie does to promote my business. So if you're feeling strapped financially, time-wise, bandwidth, then I think it's that like strategic thought process of, is there opportunity here to get other people to do this work for me, right? Like, how can I not be the only one doing it, Right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think thinking creatively too. So you may not have a ton of tagged photos yet on Instagram, for example, to reach out to those people and ask if you can repost them. But what you might have are Google reviews. So how could you take a glowing Google review and repurpose that as content? You could take the quote, throw it into Canva to create a template, and use that as an Instagram, Facebook, TikTok post. You can animate it, you can add voiceover to it. There are, thinking about what can you do right now to create that content. Maybe it's you walking into your business in the morning and showing your morning routine. I think you can take a lot of inspiration from what you see people doing on other platforms, on TikTok, on Instagram, and repurpose it as a business owner.
So I struggle with this all the time. I have the idea, or I might even have created it, and I'm like, oh, it's like 9 p.m. I probably shouldn't post this right now or whatever. What software should I use to schedule it? And how do I do that? Are there free options to do scheduling?
Yeah, there's a lot of free options out there. I would say, first and foremost, most of the platforms that you may already be using, including Meta and TikTok and blogging platforms, all have scheduling options. So what you could do is create all of your content on the weekends, schedule it out throughout the week. I know that Later also offers a free option. But even just working within the platforms that you're using, most of them have free templates that you can also use to give you ideas, free music. There's a lot of options out there.
Do I have to have a certain account, or how do I know how do I get to those that scheduling within Meta?
Great question. I believe you have to have a business account in order to schedule that, which is a smart move to do as a business yourself, because it opens up a variety of tools for you as a business owner to have either a creator account or a business account.
Yeah, and the business account gives you a lot more data than you would get on just a regular user account. So if you're interested in seeing performance and analytics for that, I think having the business account set up, and then if you ever want to get into the advertising, actually like putting money behind it, you need that anyway. So,
and I'll say,
yeah, that's okay. Just get it done.
And I would also add in everything that we've talked about in terms of getting ideas for what kind of content to create and understanding your audience, understanding your demographics, your analytics are going to be a huge key to that. So diving into those analytics, looking at your views, looking at where people are coming from, how people are finding you, that is an incredible tool to use to build your content and your audience.
How do you leverage those analytics? So when you look at that, then how do you change, you do a lot of this yourself, so how do you change what you're doing on social media based on those analytics?
Yeah, I think that can tell you a lot about your audience, how they're finding you, the kind of content that's resonating with them. I'll use my own account as an example. And speaking of cats, I have a very cute kitten, and had a post. I just created this sort of one-off post that went viral. It currently has almost 3 million views right now, which is wild to me. But it's just her and this little voiceover that was sort of going around on Instagram. And I created this little reel, and it's about 7 seconds long. But it told me what I really kind of knew already, and that is the people love cats. So I've been sort of using that as a way to post more about them. It gives me an excuse to share more of their antics and how cute they are, but it also, I want to make my audience happy, and I love hearing feedback that it's, brightening their day. But, thinking about your own business, and maybe there is a certain product that really resonated with customers, or, a type of content that you see that is really picking up. And I think taking inspiration from that, not totally shifting your bottom line in terms of the kind of content you're creating, but taking inspiration from what is obviously resonating with your audience.
Yeah, I think the interesting part about that, like that work and the reach that you get from that is really impactful to kind of start up here with your content strategy and your marketing strategy, right? So if you are going viral over a cat post or something else,
It's not all cats.
It's not all cats, but you're going to be reaching a ton of new people, right? You're reaching like a whole new audience that isn't yours. And same thing if you're like partnering with another business or like a local creator or an influencer, right? That's the whole point of it, right? Is to reach more people that aren't already in your audience and following you. So then you've got this whole slew of new audience members that are paying attention to your brand. So it's really exciting to see how you can get eyes on that and more people in there. But I think the next layer of it is what you do after that, right? So now you've got all these new people, and then like 70% of them fall off when you start actually posting about like your core services, right? Or your actual business, So then you're like, okay, well that was cool, but now I need to get to the people that are actually going to engage with what my business offers. So that's when you can start to really lean into analytics and say, okay, so I see that there's still, my engagement grew by maybe 3 or 4% as a result of these really big brand awareness efforts. So now, what kind of content are these people engaging with? And what are they doing, right? Are they watching a video? Are they clicking through to my website? Are they signing up for my email list? And so I think that sometimes, not always, but sometimes we get really excited about the awareness phase, but we have to remain strategic in getting through to the engagement and the conversion and the nurturing. And so it's that next level that I think the analytics plays a really key component in, and also understanding your audiences, right? So like, who are the 3 million people that are here now, right, and what relevance do they play in what I'm trying to achieve? So are they local? Are they from somewhere else? Are they male? Are they female? Are they, interested in fashion? Are they interested in just animals or, real estate or whatever it may be? How can we start to bucket these people and then serve them content that is more specific to their interests and my business?
And that's best done through
Well, I think
what?
using your social media, for example, to build the awareness, right? And then using additional channels like email, like your website, to suck them in and contain them in your brand, right? So social media is incredible for that awareness phase, but it takes a lot more to get them beyond platform, because social media only wants them to stay on Instagram. Like we never want them to leave Instagram. We want them to stay. That's why Instagram makes it so easy to shop on there, because they don't want them to click to your website. So how do we get them from awareness and engagement online or on social to a place where we can actually drive conversion?
Yeah, and I think understanding where they're coming from is really important, and that is both digitally and geographically. So if I know that I'm speaking to a predominantly New England audience, I wouldn't necessarily throw money behind a post and advertise to like Southern California or geo-target a specific region that is not, unless you want to have a lot of customers from, I don't know, Texas or something like that. I would put money behind a post and target it towards New England customers. And that can also, going back into the inspiration for what kind of content to create. Maybe you start posting about, the other businesses on the block that your business is, to show, oh, you're visiting Portland. Here are some other great businesses to patron.
Mm-hmm. So part of this is about consistency too. So if you're trying to, gain that awareness and then suck them in, you have to be consistent. So what tips do you have for that? Because I think that's a big struggle for people. I know that is for me and for other small businesses. It's just, again, it's like going back to the time. So what are your tips and tricks for staying consistent with your content creation and getting it out there?
Don't try and boil the ocean. So that means don't tell yourself you're going to post twice a day, every day. What can you do that feels manageable? Again, like paying attention to your bandwidth. Maybe it's posting, you set a goal to post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you do it at the same time every day. You can schedule that ahead of time so you don't have to worry about the posts going up. And then set aside time to interact with your followers, respond to comments, do all of your monitoring. But I think setting a schedule for yourself, and one that feels manageable and feels doable, is the first place to start. And then once you feel like, oh, maybe I can fit in a little bit extra, you could add in another post, or you could add in another email or blog post.
Yeah, you have to schedule it, just like you would a meeting with your accountant, like you just have to schedule. And I think trying different methods, like if you're somebody that wants to sit down and batch create content for 3 hours on one day and not think about it for the month, that works too. That's why you have the scheduling tools that we, are talked about already. So just determining what works best for you, that's going to actually get it done and make it a priority. There's really no secret sauce to doing the work.
Yeah. You got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
And I think just thinking about it in the same way that you would with any other aspect of your business, you mentioned that, and just making that as part of your schedule.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah.
So how do I measure my plan? So I've implemented my plan. What should I be looking at? And again, think very, very basic information I can find very quickly. What are those key metrics?
So if you are thinking about it from the top down, then I think your goals will determine your measurement success, right? So if you're thinking, I want to build brand awareness, that's what I'm trying to achieve, then your indicator of success would be reach, right? How many people did this reach? How many more people have I gained within my audience? If your goal is conversions, like if you want somebody to say, watch 75% of a video, then your goal, or engagement I should say, is video completion rate, So it's really thinking about like, what am I trying to achieve? And that's going to give you the measurement of your success. If it's, I want to grow my email list and I'm going to do this, link on my Instagram story to see if I can get people to sign up for my email, then the goal in the measurement of success is the conversion. So it's really not, I think we can overcomplicate it in our heads. Like, how am I measuring this? Is it working? Set yourself really simple, straightforward KPIs, like I just want more people to be watching this. Mm-hmm. So what kind of content are more people watching? And then do more of that and see if more people watch it, And then what, I think, is the question that doesn't happen. But I already said that, so.
We
So
could
I think
probably
it's
do a
just
whole nother session just on that.
yeah, it's
Maybe we
just
should.
tying the effort to the most very basic KPI.
Yep.
The one thing I'd add too is that I find the one area I find a lot of businesses focusing too much on is your number of followers. We are at work and in my own freelance work, I have a lot of businesses that will come and say, we want 10,000 followers, or we want to grow our followers to like X number. We want a post to go viral, blah, blah, blah. People are following less and less these days. Think about the number of Facebook pages that you follow, if you still use Facebook. There are creators that come up in my Explore feed all the time that I always like seeing their content. I'm not necessarily following them. And it's just not an indicator of your reach, because your reach may be far greater than your following. It's a nice to have, so if you see your follower count going up, that is showing you something. It's showing you that your account is getting seen, but it's definitely not the be-all, end-all of success. And we say this to businesses who are interested in working with creators. You can work with a creator that has 4 million followers and not generate any leads because they don't have the audience that is going to resonate with your business. And working with someone that is hyper-local, that has maybe 2,000 followers, that may be far more impactful than the large creator. And we see this, and I say that it goes both ways.
Is it true now that people are looking, I've heard that brands are now looking for those smaller creators and that the big ones aren't getting as much exposure?
That's hard to say. I don't have a huge following, so I can only speak from my experience.
Compared to the most of us, you do.
So I can only speak from my experience, but I definitely have really great success working closely with brands because I have a super engaged audience and that I've built their trust over the years, and I really appreciate my followers. So yeah, I do think that it's certainly, I think brands are still wanting to work with big followers or big influencers. That's obviously still a thing, but there are definitely brands out there that'll work with smaller people, and it's always appreciated too.
So as you as a small business, find people in your community, because I mean, looking across the room, I know several of your businesses. We've got cleaning, real estate. You don't care about California. I mean, I guess if they're moving here, but that's still local. So you care about the people here. So find a creator that's really focused locally.
Yeah, using food as an example, we have some amazing food influencers in Maine and Portland. And if you own a restaurant, finding someone that is hyper local, that is speaking to Portland or Maine locals, they are also going to be a resource for people who are coming here. So while they may not have, again, millions of followers, some of them do, working with someone that is right in the city is such a benefit, I think.
So let's move then into the content creation, which we've kind of already gotten there. So I'm planning. I've got my plan. I've got my goals, and I know the metrics, how I'm going to measure those goals. And I've set aside the time to do the thing. So now we're going to do the thing. So how do I find my topics that are going to resonate with my audience? Are there tools for that? Is that still in the planning phase? How do I do that?
I think that goes back to really the first question in knowing your business and knowing your message, and also using your analytics. So knowing how people are coming to find you and finding those search keywords, what people are searching for to find your business. And then also, I just lost my train of thought, I'm sorry.
I just noticed it's snowing outside, so I did too.
Oh, wow. I'll use that as my excuse.
One thing that I really love as just a good little tip is what questions your customers are asking.
Okay.
I think that's always a nice one. What do you hear, or what is your register staff here, or the person that answers your phone here all of the time? Because that's a good indicator of what your customers are coming to find out when they're watching your social media or looking at your website. And it also, I think, gives you some insight as to what language, be specific, what are they saying? What language are they using when they're talking about your business? Because oftentimes, as a business owner, or a marketing person, we have like our brand guide and our tone that we use and the language, like our sort of really fancy way of describing what we do. That may not mirror the way that you mentioned search data, that people are actually trying to find you. Like it's not necessarily going to be the exact same language. So leaning into those conversations with customers, I think is really important. And also using actual search data, if that's something that you have access to or can find someone to support with that. Because that's going to give you those topics that keep coming up, the keywords that keep coming up, the questions that keep coming up, and that's where I would start, I think, if you're like at a loss of what to do for content.
Yeah, and I'd look at your Google reviews too. If you have Google reviews, there are some great ways to leverage what people are saying, even reviews that aren't necessarily 100% positive. So just using the example of maybe you have a storefront that's hard to find. It's tucked away down a back alley in Portland. You could create a video that says, come with me to find my hole-in-the-wall Portland establishment, whatever your business may be. And you're literally walking through Portland. You could do some pans of the beautiful buildings and literally show people how to find you and post that to your social media. So I think there's a huge variety of inspiration out there.
Are there tools to look for that search data easily, quickly?
Yes, there are. There are free tools, and then there are, I think you'll get more granularity and insight if by using paid tools. And there's also a ton of incredible local agencies like Sonar that does that work for you and can really like kind of glean out the really profound insights that not only, because using those tools, you'll see a lot of stuff that may be or may not be relevant to your actual business. So working with somebody that's their area of expertise, I think you kind of get the data married with the relevance and the intent of your audience. And so if that's a whole new ball game for you, I think it's definitely important to maybe seek out some support just in understanding what it is you're trying to look for and achieve, because you can get, you can use free tools like Moz or Spider Monkey or some of these different SEO tools, but if you don't really know what you're looking for, what you're looking at, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it can be. I mean, and that's why I said the thing about questions, because it's like sort of if we're trying to keep it simple and approachable, and like I'm a one-woman or a one-man show, and like I don't have the money to hire an agency or so on and so forth. It's like, where can you find the language aside from these tools where it's actual tested, real experiences from people that have come and purchased or used your services. So yeah.
That's even something you could use for content, asking your audience how they found you and asking them to comment. I hear from people pretty frequently about the hashtags that they found me on. So I had someone comment recently that they found me on the thrifting hashtag, which is awesome. And paying attention to what they're saying, paying attention to the questions they're asking, and asking them questions back.
So let's talk about some tools, though. So on the creation side, anyway, there's a lot of free tools out there or very low-cost tools. What are the essential, I'm a small business, here's the 3 tools that you must be using to do your content creation, whether it's still images or video?
Canva.
Yeah.
Just forever, Canva.
Who uses Canva here?
It's just the best. I think and then the other tool that I would really encourage people to select for their business is, what's your email marketing tool? Like we talk a lot about Canva or like these design tools, but I think really being intentional with email marketing is one of the most impactful things that you can do for your business. And so there's a lot of free or low cost email tools that you can use as well. So I would definitely say like either I love Drip. I know a lot of people use MailChimp. Any of those is something that
And a lot of those tools also now have
they have
these
layouts
other
and things. And it's really easy to take a tool like Canva and make an email header and upload it into one of those email marketing tools as well. And so they kind of, once you get the hang of a little bit, you can make your brand pretty consistent on those, because they make it pretty straightforward to upload and put it all together.
I can get into the nitty-gritty too of specifics. I agree with Canva 100%. I will say Not AI. There's nothing, as a creator and as an artist, my background's in photography, there's nothing more painful than seeing a brand, and there have been some big ones, post an image that is so obviously generated in AI, and not only are they not paying artists, not paying creators, but they're posting something that doesn't feel real. There's something very uncanny about it. I think there are ways of using AI in your strategy that can be effective, but not an AI image. I just saw there was a sustainable brand that I follow that I really respect that posted an AI image or an AI video of an animal recently, and it was so disappointing. And all of the comments were about how disappointing that was, because not only were they posting an AI video that wasn't real, but AI has a massive impact on the planet, so it was in direct contrast to what their entire message was. And the post ended up getting taken down because it had such strong feedback from people. But getting off of that topic, Canva, great. For free stock images, Pexels, you can also just Google free stock images. There's a variety of platforms out there. I will say, in my experience as a manager of several different social media accounts for businesses, people respond best to what feels organic. So even if you have customer photos that aren't the clearest or aren't the most incredible, Instagram optimized or TikTok optimized videos, people are going to respond better to that than they will to an image that is obviously stock. That said, there are some really genuine stock sites out there. I'll say for templates and for sort of video inspiration, platforms are starting to roll out their own sort of templates that you can use to emulate different kinds of videos. For editing videos, I like to edit outside of the apps because it gives me access to the raw forms of those videos, so I can reuse them and re-edit them if I need them. Splice is the app that I use, although there are other video editing apps out there. That is a paid app, but it is relatively affordable. And then for photo editing, there's, again, a variety of free photo editing apps. I use Visco and a Color Story because they make it super easy to edit and not over filter images.
Yeah, and Adobe has some tools
Yeah.
that are on your phone too.
Yeah.
Photo Leap, I think, was one I've used in the past.
Yeah.
Visco, I'll have to go back to that one. I
Yeah,
used that
yeah,
in the past.
it's an old
Years
classic,
ago.
but they have some really nice options for editing your images that feel really clear and not overly produced.
I also love Unsplash for
Yeah.
photos, for stock
I haven't heard
images,
that one.
because they're real photographers and they give you the photographer's name, so then you can credit the photographer,
Oh,
which I
that's
think
nice.
is really
Yeah.
nice. And the photos they feel a little bit more organic, less stocky. Yeah.
I think Pexels gives you the option to tip photographers too.
Oh, cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate hiring a local photographer.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the photographer resources. I'm trying to write them down.
Oh.
I didn't get it clear.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I bet others are too.
That's okay.
For editing, so Visco, VSCO,
Okay.
and then the other app is a Color Story, and then Canva. We mentioned and then for free stock images, Pexels,
Excellent.
yeah, with an E. And what was the one? that you
Unsplash.
mentioned? Unsplash.
Unsplash.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
But yeah, I was just going to say, it's also can be fairly affordable to just hire a photographer, a local photographer, and spend like a half a day doing
Yeah.
brand images that then you can just use as well. And you can get, Portland by Local work. I was actually just starting to reach out to photographers. So we need to do this. If you're a photographer and you want to work for Portland by Local, get in touch with us because we need photos of Portland. Right? It doesn't make any sense for
Right.
us to use these stock photos.
Yeah.
And the stock photos of Portland are all of the lighthouse.
Yeah.
So,
And a sunset. and-
right,
Yeah.
right. So we need more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's also where working with local creators can come in really handy because most creators are multi-hyphenate. So they're photographers, they're video editors, they're models, they're stylists, they're kind of doing a little bit of everything. So finding one that you can also work with to promote your business could be a really great thing.
Yep.
And then you have your photos and you can batch create your content.
Right.
Right.
Schedule your content.
So bring different outfits so they're not all the same.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to open it up to the group. We'll start with a question in the live audience, and then we'll go to online. So last question that I'm going to ask is about the hardware. So that was another question we got. We're like, all right, what are the 3 tools I need to actually do this well? And like we talked about, it's cool to be not super polished, but then it's cool probably not to be super, super unpolished either.
Yeah, you got to thread the needle. I brought a visual aid. It is a tripod. You can get them on the internet. I'd highly recommend just investing in a sturdy tripod that is going to hold your phone. I really like this one. I bought it thinking that I could strap it to my bike. I can't, but I still bring it with me everywhere. And it has a little remote. It makes shooting really easy, and it's great for, you can get them that this one you can shoot directly on, or you can sort of angle it. We also have them at work that will clip on a surface so you can shoot straight down, which is great for food content, any sort of like small items that you want to show. And then it really doesn't have to be complicated. Your phone, you don't need a massive camera. An iPhone is going to do you just fine. I will say a mic can be really handy if you are recording any kind of voiceover. I have yet to invest in this. It's stupid. They're so cheap. But it will save you a lot of time in post-production trying to edit out all those pops and S's and P's and yeah.
And then you can do the really cute little mic thing that everybody does.
Yeah,
And makes it-
that's very cute.
I thought about buying one too. Yeah, so tripod probably, is there any tripod, mic, phone?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
start
Some
there.
good lighting.
Good lighting. And good lighting, your best lighting is going to be natural lighting. You could do a ring light. I find they always feel artificial no matter what. But yeah, shooting in daylight, that's your best friend. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we open up to questions? So who has a question in the audience? All right, I'm gonna this one first. Yes, you do. So Joe's going to give you the mic so the people online can hear you.
You won't hear yourself.
Okay. My question is, for small businesses, how do you recommend getting into the influencer, micro-influencer, sphere, especially in Maine? It feels like a lot of what I see on my personal content is outside of Maine, these big, whatever influencers, but I'm curious what your guys' recommendations are for kind of getting into that.
Actually finding them.
Yeah, finding them.
How do you reach out?
How do you reach out? Yeah, and how do you know
We have
who's
one, right?
the best one for your business? That kind of thing.
I think in terms of finding them, there's a variety of different platforms that will actually aggregate influencers for you. You can also just follow the hashtags, and you'll have to consume some content. It's going to take some time. But if you find one main influencer, look at their followers, look who's commenting, and you'll find a lot of other main influencers, because I think we all really like to support each other. I follow so many main influencers. I love seeing what they're doing. That's a great way to just find them. That's how I've often found the influencers that the accounts I manage work with. Just going on, doing my own research, scheduling some time in the morning to scroll, look at different hashtags, look at who's following the Maine Tourism Office, all of that, Visit Maine. And then in terms of finding who's going to be the best fit for your business, I would look at the type of content that they're creating. So if let's say if I'm a fashion account, I wouldn't necessarily think someone in the food space is going to be the best fit unless they're posting about what I wore to this restaurant. So thinking about the type of content they're creating, the type of audience they have as well, and looking at what people are commenting. If they have an engaged audience, I think that's also really important. And then see if they have an email in their bio. That's one of my biggest tips, is if their email is there, that's how they want to be contacted. It's also much easier to respond, for me at least, responding to email, I prefer that over DMs. But you can also just slide into their DMs.
There are local agencies that will manage it for you as
Yeah.
well. But I don't necessarily think if you're kind of testing the waters, especially in the food space, that there's any harm in just managing it on your own for a round and seeing how it goes. I would always, always, always get an agreement in place, but I don't think that that's anything that has to be like, exceptionally overdone either. But just defining what it is you're trying to achieve, what the results are that you're measuring, compensation, that kind of thing, just in writing. And
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need lawyers involved, but just a basic contract is, you can find templates for them online.
I mean, they're wanting to do the work,
Yeah.
so they're going to try and, do it well, so.
Yeah, and they also on their side want that security too of having a contract in place, and it's really helpful also as a creator just to know these are the expectations, these are the dates, just make it easy.
I think we had one over here, and then we'll move online.
Hi, you mentioned AI, and which my feed is just filled with ads for, let AI take over your ads and this and that. And I agree, it looks horrible, and I'm opposed to it in that respect, but are there ways that AI can be used effectively to help you as far as just like placement or search results or things like that? I wouldn't use them for creating a video. I think they're horrendous, but what ways do you think there is a use for that?
Yeah, I think that there's a great use case for AI in terms of writing prompts, or so if you're thinking about blog content, for example, or website content, and the topic or the keywords that you want to use, using AI to either prompt that or generate it and then edit it. I think something to just always keep in mind is I don't recommend that you take what AI wrote and copy and paste it, but there's opportunity there to generate ideas, to generate some copy that you can then edit and improve upon. So I would lean into it for that use case, at least if it's something that you're trying to dip your toes into and understand and experiment with.
It can also be a great tool for readability. So you can, if you write a blog post and want to assess its readability, you can put that into AI and ask it to determine its readability and its clarity, or expand upon it. I think it can be a great tool. It can also help you. I use it, if I'm writing a blog post, I'll often have sort of a difficult time just kicking it off. So I'll use it to help me, kick off that first paragraph, and then I'll go in and make it my own and rewrite essentially what it gave me. And I have colleagues that also use it to help them write their captions for social media. So they're, again, not copy pasting, because it can definitely bring in some incorrect information. And it's obviously not going to know your business the way you do, but it can certainly generate ideas for captions, ideas for content.
I really like to reverse engineer that too. I'll write something and then put it into AI and say, edit this for me. And then it just is sometimes really great. It's wow, you're a good writer.
Yeah. And I've used it for video in that taking a video and getting all the ums and ifs and pauses out. So there's tools where you can throw a video in and say, this is an hour long and I want you to make it into 5 individual little reels, and that's helpful. Now I still have to go back and edit it because it doesn't get it right. So same thing, you don't just then publish that video, but particularly to shorten it and get all those pauses out, it's really great for that.
So you're going to use it for our ums and ifs for today, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I am when I create little reels from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there is use in the same, I use the paid version of ChatGPT for prompts and to when I'm trying to think, or templates, give me a template for this, those kinds of things. Plug for our last session was all on AI. So if you go to our YouTube page, you can find that hour-long session that we did all on AI tools. So I highly recommend you go and watch that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, one more question here.
Hey, good morning. I have actually 2 questions. My first question is about posting on Instagram. I like have my content, I have my goals, but then I have options. I have a story, I have a reel, I have a post. Do I use trending music? Do I use a template? Like, how do I figure that out? Like, what should I be pressing? And then my second question is like looking ahead as like social media landscape is changing, people are leaving Facebook, whatever. What platforms are you guys looking at as like what's coming next? Thanks.
Yeah. I think when it comes to what types of posts to create, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, all of them, because Meta Instagram likes when you use their functions. So if you can, post a story, and I'll preface that also by saying it doesn't have to, if you don't let it be complicated, it doesn't have to be complicated. So maybe it's just a quick story every day, or you're reposting a customer content, and then that day you do a carousel post, and then that's a Monday, and then on Wednesday you post a reel, and on Friday you post a still image. But I think we see the most success when people are using most of the functionality of a platform. When it comes to sort of the trending music and trending sounds, it can get difficult for businesses because once you have a business account, you don't always have access to all of those. You end up using, what's the word for it? When non-licensed music. Non-licensed music. So if there is a trending sound, you may have to actually make your own version of that, which we've done for customers before. And then, going back, that sort of just reminds me, talking about actual apps to use. Splice is I had mentioned that as one that I use. That has a library of free music, which can be really helpful in just knowing that this is not going to get flagged by Meta as non-usable music and copyright infringement. So that is something that you have to pay attention to. But if you have a business account, you'll have access to license-free music within the app.
I think the second half of that question is around Meta, and actually at the IndieBiz EDU Summit, we're going to have a whole session on Beyond Meta. So please come to that event.
Sorry, I forgot that.
Yeah, so I guess what are the other tools? TikTok was there, and now it's there, and I don't know if it's going to be there, but
Controversial.
Yeah,
I see a lot of people moving to Blue Sky. And I've also become pretty fascinated with what's happening on Substack.
Same.
Yeah, which I'm really into. And then I think also there's a level of YouTube usage that is just beyond right now. So I feel like paying more attention there is important. So those are the ones that I would maybe think about.
I would say my biggest piece of advice is don't freak out. Don't pull all of your social accounts from Meta just yet. Don't abandon your social strategy, because social media is upended at the moment. I agree. I think that Blue Sky is really interesting. I'm really curious to see where that goes.
Yeah.
The YouTube thing, we've been talking a lot about that at work, because I do think that Meta is starting to see itself is starting to see YouTube as the next competitor. So first it was TikTok, and Meta created Reels to compete with TikTok. With TikTok being upended, a lot of creators and maybe even casual users last week saw that Reels is rolling out 3-minute Reels, and for the longest time, the general recommendation was to create short, quick, snackable videos. Well, now Meta is rolling out 3-minute videos and pushing that to all of the creators. So I think that is showing, to me, that says that they're really seeing YouTube as sort of the next big competitor. And they've been around for a really long time, and it doesn't surprise me.
And YouTube is also owned by Google, which is really impactful for search. And there's a lot of SEO opportunity on YouTube in addition to content. So I would definitely pay attention.
Yeah, and they have YouTube Shorts now, which is their
Same as
sort
Reel.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
Question online?
Yeah, so Tori online had a question in similar vein to that, and I think we've covered most of it, but she does ask, in addition to that, kind of building on that question, Do you have any suggestions for keeping up with these changes in how and where people are engaging with social media?
Whew, I wish I knew how to keep up. I think to Julie's point, like there's often opportunities, but there's also the ones that are sticking around, you know? So it's like, there's really no need to jump around and jump ship at the latest trend. I think the ones that interest you and that, you know, interest your customers are really the ones to pay attention to. You don't need to be on every single platform. You don't need to be on every new platform. You need to be on the platforms that are impactful for your business and on the platforms where your audience is. So if nobody that you serve is, you know, between 16 and 35, I don't know that I would spend a lot of my time and energy on TikTok. If a lot of people that, you know, are interested in your business are interested in watching like how-to videos on home renovations, I would definitely focus on YouTube. You know, so I think it's thinking about not what the newest and greatest and latest and most exciting platform is, but where are my people?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. And if you don't know how to create a YouTube video, there are YouTube videos about it.
With your tripod.
Yes, with your tripod and your phone.
So Meg asks, what's the best way to grow an audience if you're just starting out?
Well, I think that I was thinking about the, I don't want to give it away, but the last question that was like, what do you do? You know, like really just start. Just like start creating content and see what feels like it's impactful and what sticks and what feels like you can keep up with. Like all of the things we've talked about. Like what can I do? What is my bandwidth? What are people engaging with? Like just start. You don't know what you don't know until you start. So absolutely focusing on that like brand awareness phase. Like this is what I offer. These are my core values. These are my services. These are my, you know, these are some of my customers. This is where I am. Like focusing on those, you know, thinking about the introduction to your business and creating content in that vein is where I would begin. And then of course there's always opportunity for advertising. You know, if you want to put money behind it and really amplify that more quickly, I think that that's something to consider as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say just start. I came up in the era of sort of, I want to say like the golden age of blogging, but like I started blogging in 2009 and it was just this, you know, sort of Wild West of people just spilling their guts on the internet and just starting a blog. And I remember starting my blog and just speaking as though people were there. There was nobody there. I was speaking into the ether, but eventually people found me, and and then later on there was, you know, as people started to want to start more blogs, want to start sharing their own lives online, there was a lot of talk of, well, I want to launch my blog, and I thought that was so interesting that it went from just like bleh into, you know, creating your brand first and making sure you were creating this perfectly polished, you knew exactly what you were creating sort of space. But I think I very much live by perfection is the enemy of done. So just, I would say just do it, while keeping in mind everything that we have sort of been discussing and, you know, trying to know your audience, who you're speaking to, have a message. But also, I wouldn't overlook, if you're actually trying to grow your audience, grow your follower number, look into collaboration. And I'm not just talking about with creators, but with other like-minded businesses. How can you work together to build your customer base and your following? So if you run a tourism business and you are touring Portland, Maine, that gives you so much access to other business owners in Portland. How do you want to show their business on your page? And how can you sort of share your followers? Meta specifically has a great option of doing collaborative posts so that you are literally sharing each other's followers. If the post is showing up on your feed, it's showing up on their feed, and you can do it with multiple people. And that, I think, is one of the strongest ways these days to actually grow and get your business, your platform, your social media in front of other people who may resonate with what you have to say.
My name's Jamie Crawford. I own a marketing business in Portland, but I wanted to play off of what you said because I love scrolling to the very first post a creator makes and then watch the evolution to where like, oh, they just bought a brand new camera. Oh, wow, they're taking themselves seriously now. Like, whoa. So like, I think that can give a lot of inspiration to people starting out as well, of just watching the evolution of a content creator and giving yourself permission. Because to your point, I say to my clients all the time, you just have, there's no perfect way. You just have to create and start
messy.
seeing what sticks to the wall. And I always like to tell clients that your digital relationships are just an extension of the ones you make in person. So if you can constantly be out in your community, to your point of like what opportunities exist for collaboration, your content can become like, I just went to this store, I had this meaningful interaction, this means this to my business, this means this to my community. So I just wanted to play off of that.
Totally. Yeah, and that reminded me too of, oh gosh, my brain is just. But if you're, so as an example, you know, if a new business goes in on your block, you know, doing a post welcoming them to the area, I think can be really impactful. And I had something else and it is gone. And I'm so sorry. It's going to come back at the most inopportune time.
But yeah, networking isn't dead too, right?
Networking is not
yeah.
dead.
Go to events.
No.
You know, that's why we host things in person and online. Like we need to also talk to people in real life.
Yes.
That reminded me of what I was going to say. And that is, don't overlook monitoring your accounts. So it's great to post, but don't just post in a vacuum. You have people that are going to be following you. You know, if you get your first follower, look on their page, comment back on what they're creating, you know, add a comment if they're private or whatever, you know, send them a message saying thank you. I think, you know, growing your follower count is only as good as your relationship with your followers. So comment back, look at their pages, comment on their pages, have that dialogue and keep that dialogue going. It's really meaningful.
Any other questions online?
Yes. So Sarah wants to know if you can give any insight on how to find and use keywords on Instagram specifically. She says, I keep coming across information saying that hashtags aren't cutting it anymore.
Yeah, there's, so when it comes to keyword research, the information that you would apply to Instagram, you're going to find through other channels. So, I mean, there is, I think, hashtags and like keyword searches on Instagram, but if you have like an overall keyword strategy for your business, like if you have that search data that we talked about and you know the language, the intent language that your customers are using, that's the keyword information that you're going to apply to Instagram. So I don't necessarily know that I would start with Instagram. I would start with the business, like your website, your customer language, your core offerings, your services, all of the things that we talked about. Those keywords are what you want to apply to captions and alt text on your Instagram posts. So not on platform, bringing it into platform.
Yeah. And then thinking about, I think of hashtags now as more of a way to categorize my own posts. So if it's a post about fashion, secondhand, thrifting, I always add those in because it tells Instagram this is the kind of content that is being created. And then people may still find my account that way. They may not. But then thinking about those keywords too to sort of help categorize what you're talking about.
Yeah, and same with not just captions, but also your bio on your profile, you know, your location. You want to make sure that all of those fields are capturing keywords, core offerings, you know, where you're located. That information I think is really important to not neglect.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't.
Right.
You're
And like
"Who
even
are
your
you?"
name, you know, like
Yeah.
that's a keyword opportunity on Instagram, even what you're calling yourself and what your handle is. So, you know, making use of all of those fields.
Yeah, people should know exactly what you are, what they're getting, when
Where
they go
you
to-
are.
Yeah, where you're located, having all of that filled
Yeah.
out is really important. Take advantage of the tools that are there.
And it looks like we do have 2 more questions left. Kathy wants to know, what's a good way to figure out reasonable expectations and cost for working with an influencer?
You want to talk about what you charge? I think one thing before you have like the good insider information that I would consider not knowing what like influencers are going to charge is thinking about the value of the impression. So like you can pay $5,000 for a print ad in like a local publication, right, or 3,000 or whatever it may be, and you get how many impressions from that. And if you reach out to a local print publication, they're going to give you an estimate. Same with the radio. Like, this is how many people are going to hear your commercial. So then thinking about that as applied to any form of digital advertising. So at this stage in the game, digital, like social advertising, is one of the cheapest awareness tools that we have. You know, it's going to be very cost effective if done properly, and you're going to be incredibly targeted. So the more targeted you get with your audience, the more expensive it's going to cost, or it's going to be for your business. So if you have a influencer, a local influencer, that is like the exact group of people that you want to get in front of, you may decide for your business it's worth paying a little bit more to get that influencer to market my brand. Or I want to spread far and wide. I have less knowledge about who I'm targeting, or less concern about who I'm targeting. So that should cost a little bit less, right? Because it's not as direct with the audience. So I would say, again, don't make that decision in a vacuum. Like, look at other forms of advertising, look at other channels and the audience, and then just make a determination if that's what's best for your business or your investment or not. In terms of actual pricing, maybe Julie will share.
I'll be honest, it's all over the place. You can have people with 2 million followers charging less than people with 5,000 followers. And some of that is because of that hyper
Targeting.
targeting. I'll say for myself, my pricing varies. So if I know you are a small business, your marketing budget is likely not huge, I will quote you less than a national brand. And it also depends on the deliverable. So if you're looking for exclusivity, where I'm not speaking about any other competitors within, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. If you are looking for stories and a reel and a TikTok and a Facebook post, then I will charge you more. If you are looking for ownership over that content, that's a big one. And that's something that a lot of brands want, is to own that content outright afterwards, to be able to use it all over the place. And that is something that I know a lot of creators struggle with, because that, you're speaking to, again, not just someone who's posting videos on social media. They're a photographer, they're a videographer. A lot of them have art backgrounds, marketing backgrounds. You are speaking to another business. So thinking about, what would be fair, I think, is important. And then also just being honest and being flexible. If you reach out to an influencer and they quote you something really, outside of your budget, going back to them and saying, we'd still love to work with you, that's outside of our budget, what could we make work? And maybe it's not posting on every single platform. Maybe it is just a static image, or you just do a story together. But I think what can sort of rob you of opportunity is just washing your hands of it and saying, well, that's outside of my budget, and so sorry. But I think keeping that conversation going is really important.
We have one more question, and you've already touched upon this a little bit, but how important is it to include YouTube in content strategy? I think we've touched upon that part. But the second half of the question is specifically for small businesses that create their own content and don't have the funds to work with an agency or hire a full-time social media manager. So what kind of tips would you have for that type of small business who just wants to get started on YouTube and start, creating content for YouTube?
Again, I would just start. I think that there's really no perfect solution or secret sauce to it being messy and new to somebody, and I think as entrepreneurs or business owners, you're kind of used to that feeling, right? It's hard, it's going to be uncomfortable, that it's going to be different. But there are so many YouTubers that are not like professional videography level, they're just videoing themselves with their phone in their backyard with whatever it is that they're doing. And they're wildly successful, because they're engaged, they're relevant, they're intentional with their content. So I don't necessarily think that it's prohibitive to not have that professional level video. I think what's prohibitive is just our feelings around the quality that it needs to be able to post.
Absolutely. I saw a thread recently, speaking of social media platforms, that it was to essentially the same thing, where it's like you're laughing at my unpolished YouTube video, meanwhile all of your videos are in drafts. Just do it. Just put it out there. You may get snarky comments, whatever. Just pretend that no one's watching, or maybe no one's watching. Eventually people will. So I think just getting it out there and not allowing that idea of perfection or idea of embarrassment. I think a lot of people wanting to post online will sort of get in their own way because, oh my God, what if people laugh at me? What if people, I'm taking videos of myself dancing on the street or trying to show off my outfit and people are walking by and laughing. If I didn't do that, I'd never have any content. And that's also where content comes from. Thinking about what other people are doing to create that content. It's just an aspect of it. But getting out of your own way and just doing it is.
Yeah, our culture is used to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you see people videoing in restaurants all the time now, and I don't think that it's that abnormal to see, so I think we're used to it. And also you didn't become a business owner and you're not an entrepreneur because you're timid. Like you're brave. You're so brave. And so I think just putting yourself out there is part of that.
Yeah, you're already not playing it safe, so just don't play it safe on the internet.
Right. Yeah. Some safety.
Yeah, maybe. There's some caveats to that.
Yes. Yeah. So, but don't wait till you even have the tools, right? Just like, okay, I want to do a video today. I don't have the tripod. I don't have the mic. Whatever. Just put it on a shelf and talk at your phone.
Put it on. Stack some yoga blocks up. Put like a book against it. You're fine.
Yeah. And pretend that you are talking to someone. Even if you don't have any followers, they will come. And if you're saying, hey guys, it's me, and there's literally no hey guys behind the camera, they'll find you.
The guys are gonna come.
Yeah. And I can tell you what my very first Instagram post was, and that was a picture of the Five and Dime in North Conway. Jamie and I know each other from childhood. The Five and Dime in North Conway, and it was used with whatever the Valencia filter was. And it
was a good filter.
Yes, it really was.
Don't underestimate the power of people that love you. I'm a personal trainer on the side. It's a passion project, and I do AMAs were the best thing that happened on social media a couple of years ago in terms of just user interaction.
Yeah. Don't underestimate the people that love you. That's what we're talking about.
The questions to all of my friends. So I'm going to do an AMA. All those questions were questions I created. They just come and I responded back to them. And I had a friend who asked me oh my God, your business must be booming. And I was like, actually, it's my boyfriend, my mom, my husband. But it worked because people are creating their own perception of what they think your success looks like.
Yeah. The comment from the audience was just about creating an AMA, right? Ask me anything. It's that's also real. And again, just talk to somebody even if they're not there.
And what a good way to understand the questions that your customers have, right? Because you literally give them an opportunity to ask. I don't know that we fully touched on this, but that was one other thing that I had thought about in preparation for this is how can you look for ways in your business to give people opportunity to engage with you, even if it's in your brick and mortar. If there's, if you're a cleaning company and you clean someone's house and you leave a card with a QR code to leave a Google review, looking for those offline opportunities to get people to engage, they're going to then share that because we share everything on the internet. So thinking creatively in your physical business about how you can create those opportunities.
And that's content then you can then use
totally
in your social media.
Yeah, thinking about AMAs specifically, that is a great way to generate ideas for content too. So if you have people asking about a specific aspect of your business or, whatever, then you can create content out of that. And that's maybe a big subset of people are wondering about this one specific thing about your business. How can you then address that in your content?
And it helps establish you as a thought leader as well.
Yep.
Yes.
How much you know on a topic.
And that's thought leadership as well.
Definitely.
Great. So I think we're done. We went a little over time. Thank you for staying. Thank you for staying online. And I'm just going to have one little lightning round question, 20 seconds each. What's the number one thing that a small business can do today to improve their digital content?
Post more.
Yeah, start.
Just start.
And consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. We will probably not have an IndieBiz EDU in March because we're having the IndieBiz EDU Summit. So please sign up for that event. You click on events. It's there, ready for sign up, and we'd love to see you. Thanks for coming today. Go back to YouTube and watch all of our other videos. We have tons of them now from the last 2 years of doing this event. So lots of good information. And thank you to our speakers.
Thank
And I'm
you.
sure that
Thank
we'll
you for
see
having
you
us.
again. Reach out to them through their socials or through their companies if you'd like more information. And until then, be happy and buy local. Thanks.